Did you know that Tibet is known as the roof of the world? Imagine a place where the sky seems closer, where the land rises over 4,000 meters in altitude. It is an isolated region, with towering mountains that dominate the horizon. But Tibet is not just a place of breathtaking beauty. It carries with it a set of mysteries and a unique culture that has fascinated the world for centuries. How does a people live who face such challenges? What legends emerge from the shadows of their mountains? What makes Tibet a point of interest not only for scholars, but for adventurers, curious minds, and mystics from all over the planet? Throughout this video, you will learn about the history, challenges, secrets, and beliefs of one of the highest and most mysterious regions in the world. Get ready to discover not only the physical peculiarities of this land, but also the legends and traditions that make it such a fascinating and enigmatic place. With every step, we will explore the depths of this unique territory, where spirituality and mysteries intertwine, and where every mountain tells a story of resistance and survival. Living in Tibet is not just a matter of endurance, but of extreme adaptation. Life there requires a deep relationship with nature and a unique mastery of adverse conditions. Temperatures can drop more than 30 degrees Celsius below zero in the winter, and the biting wind makes the climate even harsher. The thin air, due to the high altitude, requires heavier breathing, making even the simplest tasks difficult. And still, there are people who call this place home. The key to understanding how this people manage to live in such an unforgiving environment lies in their ability to adapt. Food is a good example of this. The famous tsampa, a mixture of roasted barley and yogurt butter, is an essential staple in the Tibetan diet, providing the necessary energy to face the harsh conditions of daily life. But adaptation is not just physical, it is spiritual. Tibetan culture is deeply influenced by Buddhism, and religious practices permeate every aspect of life. Working in the fields, building houses, and even social relationships have a strong connection to spirituality. In Tibet, survival is more than a matter of physical endurance. It is a true practice of faith. How do these practices blend into the daily life of those who live there? This leads us to a reflection on what it really means to live on the roof of the world. In the heart of the Tibetan mountains, where the snow never melts and the winds whistle between the rocky peaks, a legend lives on. The Yeti, also known as the Abominable Snowman, is a mysterious figure that inhabits the most unexplored recesses of Tibet. From the earliest reports by Western explorers to the stories passed down from generation to generation by the Tibetans, the Yeti remains a symbol of the unknown. Many adventurers and scientists, driven by curiosity and the desire to demystify this creature, have ventured into the mountains in search of concrete evidence of its existence. Many returned with stories of sightings, giant footprints, or strange sounds at high altitudes. However, to this day, concrete evidence of its existence remains a mystery. The Yeti is part of a much deeper cultural context in Tibet, being considered not only a creature, but also a symbol of indomitable natural forces and spiritual mysteries. For Tibetans, it is often a transcendent being, associated with supernatural phenomena that escape human comprehension. What makes this legend so persistent, even in the face of the lack of definitive proof? What role does the Yeti play in Tibetan beliefs and spirituality? This is a story that connects us to the collective imagination and the relentless search for the unknown, where every story, every sighting, feeds a mystery that never ceases to fascinate. Among the many spiritual rituals in Tibet, one of the most impressive and unique is the so-called sky burial. Unlike what we know in other parts of the world, where the dead are buried or cremated, in Tibet, the body is offered to vultures. This ritual, which may seem unusual or even shocking to those who are unfamiliar with it, has a profound connection to the religious and philosophical beliefs of the Tibetans. For them, the physical body is merely a temporary dwelling for the soul. When life comes to an end, the practice of leaving the body to the vultures symbolizes the liberation of the spirit from the material, allowing it to reach enlightenment and follow its path toward reincarnation. The sky burial is, therefore, a ritual of pure spirituality, a way of helping the spirit detach from physical bonds. The vulture, with its ability to quickly consume the flesh, is seen as a messenger between the world of the living and the world of the dead, and its action of consuming the body is a way of fulfilling the natural cycle of life and death. While the ritual is fundamentally linked to Tibetan religion, it also represents the deep connection the people have with nature and the respect for life, even after death. It is an act of surrender, of trust in the eternal cycle of renewal that permeates all Tibetan existence. Lhasa, the capital of Tibet, is a place that exudes spirituality and history. Known as the City of the Sun, it has been the religious, political, and cultural center of Tibet for centuries. In Lhasa, the majestic Potala Palace, which once served as the residence of the Dalai Lama, dominates the landscape. This imposing building, constructed at over 3,600 meters above sea level, is not only an architectural marvel, but a symbol of the spiritual resistance of the Tibetan people. Lhasa is not only the home of the Dalai Lama, but the heart of a people who fight to preserve their identity and values. The city attracts pilgrims from all over the world, who visit its temples and monasteries in search of purification and spiritual enlightenment. Jokung, one of the holiest temples in Tibet, is one of the main pilgrimage sites, being the epicenter of Tibetan Buddhism. In its streets, the Tibetans, with their prayers and chants, transmit a sense of peace and devotion that permeates the environment. However, beyond its religious value, Lhasa is also a symbol of political resistance. Since the Chinese occupation, the city has become a center of cultural resistance and a symbol of the struggle for Tibetan autonomy. The Dalai Lama, as both spiritual and political leader, has represented not only religious unity, but also the strength of a people seeking freedom and cultural preservation, facing one of the greatest challenges in their history. The history of Lhasa is the history of Tibet itself, a story of faith, struggle, and survival in the face of adversity. The system of reincarnation in Tibet is one of the most fascinating and complex in the world. The idea that the soul can be reborn in another body after death is deeply rooted in Tibetan culture, especially within the context of Tibetan Buddhism. One of the most notable examples of this system is the figure of the Dalai Lama, who is not seen as an ordinary person, but as the reincarnation of the Bodhisattva of compassion, an enlightened being who chooses to be born again to help humanity achieve enlightenment. The search for a new Dalai Lama is a highly detailed and mystical spiritual process. When a Dalai Lama dies, a team of lamas conducts a complex search process to identify the child who is, in fact, the reincarnation of the spiritual leader. This involves a series of tests that may include identifying objects belonging to the previous Dalai Lama, as well as observing the child's behavior toward these objects. During this process, it is common for Tibetan spiritual leaders to gather in secret, studying signs and using spiritual methods to ensure that the chosen child is the true reincarnation. This identification process has profound significance not only for Tibetans but for the whole world, as the Dalai Lama, more than just a religious leader, represents the struggle for the preservation of Tibetan culture, the pursuit of peace and compassion in times of adversity. The system of reincarnation is therefore much more than a religious belief. It is a key piece in the spiritual and political continuity of Tibet. Namtso Lake, located over 4,700 meters above sea level, is one of the holiest lakes in Tibet, and undoubtedly one of the most enigmatic. For Tibetans, Namtso is not just a geographical formation, it is a place of deep spiritual significance. The name of the lake, which means heavenly lake in Tibetan, reflects the reverence with which Tibetans regard this place, believing it has the power to purify the soul. For centuries, Tibetan pilgrims have traveled to its cold, crystal-clear waters to perform spiritual ceremonies, pray, and seek enlightenment. Namtso is not only a site of worship, but also a place where it is believed one can achieve a deep connection with the divine. In addition to its religious significance, Namtso Lake is an intriguing natural phenomenon. Its surface reflects the sky in an impressive way, creating an almost supernatural atmosphere, especially during dawn and dusk when the colors of the water and sky blend in a magical way. The climate around the lake is harsh, with strong winds and low temperatures, but its beauty and the sense of tranquility it conveys are indescribable. For Tibetans, the lake is a symbol of purity and spiritual serenity, a space where the material world and the spiritual world meet in a pure and untouched way. However, the mystery surrounding Namtso Lake goes beyond its natural beauty. The sudden changes in weather and lighting conditions create a unique environment, as if the lake holds deep secrets that cannot be easily unraveled. This mystery and the aura of spirituality make Namtso one of the most sacred and revered places in Tibet. The art and architecture of Tibet are a visual extension of its spirituality and philosophy of life. Every aspect of Tibetan art carries deep symbolism, reflecting the connection between humanity and the cosmos. Tibetans express their belief in the cycle of life, death and reincarnation through intricate mandalas, detailed paintings, and sculptures of gods, bodhisattvas, and Buddhist symbols. These works are not just decoration, they are spiritual tools, designed to guide meditation and the understanding of the path to enlightenment. Tibetan architecture, in turn, is a perfect fusion of functionality and respect for nature. Monasteries and temples, like the famous Potala Palace, are made to integrate harmoniously with the mountainous environment. With ornate roofs, walls decorated with frescoes, and sacred images that serve as both places of worship and contemplation. The vibrant colors, geometric patterns, and mystical symbols present in every building, sculpture, and painting are meant to reflect the pursuit of harmony and balance. Furthermore, Tibetan art is deeply linked to its religious practice. Many of the artistic objects used in rituals, such as tambourines, gongs, and singing bowls, are considered sacred. Each of these elements serves a spiritual function, not just as a cultural artifact, but as a vehicle for connecting humans with spiritual beings. Therefore, the art and architecture of Tibet are more than mere aesthetic expressions. They are a silent language through which Tibetans communicate their faith, ideals, and understanding of the universe. When admiring this art, we are not merely seeing beautiful images, but being invited to enter a world of deep spiritual and cultural meaning. The history of Tibet in recent decades is marked by the tireless resistance of its people, who have fought to preserve their culture, religion, and identity in the face of political adversity. Since Tibet's occupation by China in the 1950s, the Tibetan people have faced a period of great challenges, not only in terms of political freedom, but also in defending their spiritual and cultural traditions. The Dalai Lama, the greatest symbol of this resistance, had to flee into exile in India in 1959 after the violent suppression of an uprising in Tibet by Chinese authorities. From exile, he continued to lead the struggle for Tibetan autonomy and human rights for Tibetans. His message of peace, compassion, and non-violent resistance spread worldwide, attracting support from numerous countries and international organizations. However, Tibet's struggle goes far beyond a political dispute. It is a matter of identity and cultural survival. Tibetan culture, with its Buddhist teachings and ancient traditions, has been threatened by the imposition of Chinese policies seeking to assimilate it and erase its historical marks. From the destruction of monasteries to religious censorship, Tibet has been a spiritual battleground, where the preservation of cultural identity has become an act of resistance. Despite the repression, the Tibetan people continue to keep their traditions alive, both in Tibet and in exile. Tibetan communities around the world, especially in India, preserve their religious practices, celebrate their festivals, and keep their language alive, showing that, even in the face of difficulties, the flame of Tibetan culture does not die. The fight for freedom continues, and Tibet remains a symbol of resistance, faith, and hope for all those who believe in freedom and the preservation of indigenous cultures. Throughout this video, we have explored one of the most fascinating and enigmatic regions on the planet, Tibet. From its imposing geography to its mystical rituals and tireless fight for the preservation of culture and freedom, Tibet is undoubtedly a place of deep contrasts between the beauty and the challenges of human life. spirituality, the mystery of the Yeti, the struggle for survival, resistance to oppression, and the relentless pursuit of truth. All these stories converge in a land that, despite its difficulties, continues to inspire and fascinate the world. If you were as impressed as I was by the richness and complexity of Tibet, don't forget to like and share this video with your friends so more people can discover this land of mysteries and resistance. Leave a comment about what impressed you most about Tibet and whether you were already aware of these details or have any questions. Subscribe to the channel to not miss our next videos, where we will continue exploring incredible places and stories that you may have never heard of. See you in the next video, where we will once again venture into another piece of the world, always with curiosity and respect. See you soon.